One's on mute.
Yep. Okay.
Right. So just a reminder that we do record these Zoom meetings for YouTube and Facebook. So when you talk to me, if you don't want your face on screen, you're very welcome to turn off your video. Although, of course, I prefer it if I can see your face. I think we all prefer it if we can see your face. You have a lovely face. So Q&A, as per normal. Feel free to ask some questions, or if there's a subject you'd like us to discuss. Could be something that coming up in your meditation that you'd like to talk about, or some of the theoretical aspects of the Buddha's teaching. Rakesh, good evening. Nice to see you.
Hello, good evening, all. Yeah, we were just having a nice discussion just now in our breakout room. And I wasn't going to ask this question until I was kind of nudged by two of the members to go ahead and do it. So if you don't like the question, I'm going to blame them.
So I'm getting feedback from you. Is it possible to put in a pair of headphones or something?
Rakesh has got two. He's got two cameras going at the same time as well. He's got two microphones going. That's probably why.
Oh, Rakesh. Dear, oh dear. Okay, you're right there. Do you want to give your question a go? Oh, he's disappeared.
Yeah, sorry, I'm now here on my phone because I think the audio is better with my phone.
Okay.
But unfortunately, my phone won't let me switch my video on.
That's okay.
I'll just ask the question. Hopefully, you can hear me okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just a question. We were just having an interesting discussion in the breakout room, and we have an interesting question came up. And we thought it would be a good idea to kind of run the question by you and see what you think. And notice I'm using the word "we" in case you think it's a stupid question, in which case I'll blame the people that encouraged me to ask the question. But essentially, it's about, you were mentioning doubt as being, very pernicious, as being the biggest and the most dangerous of the hindrances.
Yeah.
And I just mentioned that I have a boss at work, very wonderful person, very, very bright, and I've known this person for a long, long time, and incredibly, incredibly decisive, very swift at making decisions, at seeing through complexity. Rarely displays any doubt, in her day-to-day life and so on. And we were just wondering whether, to some extent, the amount of doubt one experiences in the practice might be linked to our kind of, personality traits, and whether a person such as that person, such as my boss, might actually potentially experience much less doubt, in the practice.
Oh, not necessarily in the practice, because it depends on their view structure, doesn't it? There are very, very capable human beings that have completely floundered when it came to meditation.
Right.
And it's partly it's going to be personality makeup, going to be views. Yeah, it's not clear cut at all as to who are the people that see this practice all the way through, and who don't. You can never tell. I've been teaching people, meeting people for over 20 years, and you can never tell which are the ones that pull through, who not only get onto the raft, they refuse to jump back off. They stick with it through thick and thin. It's not just piercing intellect, or it's about endurance, patience, lack of a viable alternative. That was my case. I did not care for any of the other options available. It felt like I'd done versions of them. Getting married wasn't going to do it. Raising a family wasn't going to do it. Having a career wasn't going to do it. So I was, there was momentum. Also, like, I think just familiarity with a subject. So there are areas in life where your boss is extraordinarily direct and confident. That's experience, isn't it? Experience in a particular field, area of work. When we are familiar with a particular subject, we're confident with it. So it's not at all clear to me that proficiency in one area of life means that you are going to be proficient at meditation or following a spiritual path at all. Does that clarify things, or does that accord with what the group had thought about, talked about?
Yeah. I mean, somebody certainly mentioned the experience point. To me, that didn't particularly resonate in this particular instance because, I kind of, Paul, I've spoken to you in the past. I think you used to work, you've worked in banking before. I work in banking. It's a very, very messy. You experience often, things can. You're often confronted with things you have no experience of dealing with.
Wasn't as messy as when I worked on the farm.
Okay, and so you get very, very different characters, and lots of people just mull over things a long time to work their way through things. But this particular individual, remarkable decisiveness, and that's really what prompted the question. So yes, there's a lot of experience there, but that experience
it's undoubtedly the case. It is undoubtedly the case that with meditation and following the Noble Eightfold Path, you have to learn lessons. And the primary lesson that we have to learn is we have to get over ourselves. And we have to put aside learn how to put aside our self-concern. And the more we do that, and doubt is a classic example of that, isn't it? It's like, on whose behalf is the doubt? The doubt is an attempt to protect ourselves. It's like, well, I won't invest in this. I won't do this until I have more information because I'm not sure. And I want to guarantee success. So it's total self-concern. I want to guarantee success. I want to guarantee that I get it right and I'm successful at this, and I don't want to make mistakes. Whereas a confident person, one of the things that defines confidence is the willingness to make mistakes on the basis that that's how we learn. And so the only way through it, if there's a lot of doubt, is to say it's doubt as to what the instruction is. You're in the meditation and you're not sure what objects you should be looking at, or, when do I stop looking at that particular object and move on to another object? That's classic doubt about the nature of the instruction. Okay, and so in the immediacy, in that moment, you get over yourself by making a choice. Oh, this is how I will proceed in this meditation. Mm-hmm. I will remain with the object until it passes, until I've seen that it's passed, and I won't move on to another object until I know that one's passed. I don't know whether that's the right instruction or the wrong instruction, but that's what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And then either you discover that that's indeed the right way forward and you persist with it, or you reach a point where you go, okay, all right, I need to talk to the teacher. Students don't talk to me enough. There isn't enough discussion of what's actually going on in meditation. And it's the students that get over themselves and come and talk about it and go, this is what I'm doing. I'm not sure whether this is right and wrong. So yeah, you might end up with egg on your face. But if you really want to come to know and understand the true nature of reality, that's a risk you've got to take. You've got to be able to get over yourself. So you come and you get the clarification, you get the guidance, which clarifies things, and the instructor says, yes, it's perfectly all right to remain with a series of objects and not move on until those objects have passed away. It's perfectly right to take your time in meditation. Okay, all right, there's more clarity. Then you go back into the meditation, you apply yourself, you've got a little bit more confidence in the instruction, in your understanding of the instruction, you start to get experiential feedback. you start to see that things are transient. And what happens? Your doubts become less, and there's more confidence, there's more faith in what you're doing. And so over time, the doubt is replaced with confidence, and that confidence is based in real experience. And it's real experience that it's not so much that it gives us the confidence, it whittles away and dissolves the doubt. We are naturally confident, but we get the defiling, poisonous quality of doubt, self-concern, getting into the mix, and that's what upsets things. Yeah. So it is experiential.
Yep.
And of course, at what point does skeptical doubt fall away completely, the fetter of skeptical doubt, with the realization of the first supramundane path and fruition, when one becomes a stream winner? Then doubt can never overpower faith. Faith becomes a power. It becomes real, genuine, deeply felt, rooted confidence in what you're doing, because there has been the realization of nibbana for a moment. Yeah. So it is experiential. Now we can help the faith through the performance of things like recollections, and the more religious side of Buddhism will do ritual, and we'll do ceremony, and we'll do chanting and things like that. We don't do that at the House of Inner Tranquility because of the confusion that gets established, that people believe that that's what Buddha Dhamma is, the recitation of Pali chants and so forth. And it's not, it's the realization of freedom from suffering. And so we don't emphasize those things, but whatever, just reading some Pali canon will help with developing faith, developing a sense of reassurance that indeed you are on the good path, you are in the good way. Yep. Ultimately, what is it that gives us the confidence? Real experience. Jim, you had something to add.
Hi, Paul. Yeah, on the subject of doubt, I know one of the types of thinking that I'm historically hindered me, I guess, is just this observation that I have not been particularly successful at this before. And the implication was always, oh, that I'm not going to be successful this time either. At some point, I started to learn to look at this thing, and I realized, oh, it's completely arbitrary. I don't know the future. I don't know. This could go either way. Why am I putting any kind of value on what I did on the past as a predictor of the future?
Yeah, and in the past, you made a comparison. You had to have made a comparison in order to solidify this idea of success and lack. But we don't actually question what that's based in. How do we know what success means? What are we comparing it to? Yeah. So the foundation is really faulty for the doubt itself. We've made so many assumptions. This is why I say it's so important to, when we recognize the quality of doubt, that is the quality of wavering between options, and should I be doing this or should I be doing that? Should I even be meditating at all? And we recognize that as doubt. In that instant, we relegate the content of the doubt. We completely see through it. We see that it doesn't matter. The question in your mind is based on a false premise, that you knew what success meant anyway.
Yeah, kind of conceited. Okay.
Well, yes. I mean, I had the thought the other day that self-view is simply the personification of ignorance and craving. We give it a personality. We call it the self, and it's just literally the process of ignorance and craving. And it comes out, in this case, it comes out as doubt, and it is incredibly conceited. Well, no, that seems unfair, but it is. It is.
Yeah, presuming that I know the future in some way, or that I understand in some way that I just don't.
Yes. Honestly, people do not know how little they actually know. We fool ourselves in believing that we know all these things that are going on in the world. And if you actually question it, it's like, okay, do you really know that much about world politics? Do you really know that much? And where have you got the information that makes you think that you're so informed? And is that information true? Well, we have this facility for kidding ourselves. And the beautiful thing about meditation, it cuts through all of.
All right. The picture just froze. Is it me or is it you?
I think, yeah. Full screen's frozen, right?
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
He'll come back.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if you can hear us, but we can't hear you. So you might have to leave and join again, perhaps.
You're telling me, Jim.
No.
Directly. Or Paul.
Paul, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Ah, yeah.
Shall we chat amongst ourselves? Keep the topic going. How pernicious doubt is fooling us into thinking we don't have to practice. I've done it. I've finished. That's
Yeah,
it.
because it always seems so reasonable.
Yeah. I'm enlightened. My God. There it
This is
is.
an observation. I'm a sensible
Uh,
person, yes. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a challenge of the practice generally. You can't see yourself until
Yeah.
you spend a lot of time looking. Yeah.
It was interesting Paul actually said it, because I mean, I know it's, it's been like that for a long time, that students just don't go and chat enough. When I was living in the beginning, it was every 3 days, you know what I'm saying? It was so helpful. So helpful. Go and knock on his door, 5 minutes, even, or longer. But and it is that, how did Paul just put it? That it's the craving and the ignorance that is self-view. Is that what he just said?
Said self-view arose from craving and ignorance.
So we're craving to think that I'm okay, right? I'm fine as I am. I'm fine. I'm managing in the world, and
in the conventional sense, we're all fine.
Yeah.
We're all good.
And I don't want to open up and show my kind of waveringness, that doubt. It's kind of scary, right?
I definitely understand that. I think especially with doubt, especially when something is not really what you're used to. Like I've especially around my area, it's definitely more Christianity. And even though I don't believe in Christianity, like that is what you're used to hearing, or at least then it's either that or it'll be like a lot more scientific. So then when you discover like Buddhism, you're a lot more like, you're really interested, but at the same time there's still that doubt in your mind of, I've never really heard this before, so like, is it true?
Yeah, that's the classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then maybe you find another person that thinks that too. Then there's two of you that's not sure, and it's like, right,
Okay, sorry about that. I got completely Obviously, the internet didn't like what I was saying.
Demonstration of impermanence.
It was, yeah. And a good opportunity to practice acceptance
Patience.
and surrender. So we're back. Did you have a nice chat while I was gone? We got it all sorted out.
Yeah, I think we're good. Sarah started a conversation about the subject, and you can listen to it later, I guess.
Okay.
Anyways, I think you answered my question or concern.
Yeah, it is. There is a pomposity about doubt, because how could we know that, you know, we're not capable of it? I mean, one of the things that's happened recently, because I'm trying to simplify the instruction and let people know actually you can all do it, and it is within yourself, and it, you know, you don't have to become highly spiritually evolved beings first. You can just get on with mindful noting. The doubt that comes back to me is, you know, that people report back is, it seems too simple. Well, why should it be complex? Who said it should be complex? Okay, we've got a few more people asking questions. I'll just go in order as I see it. Mandy. Hi.
Hi, Paul. Yeah, I'm wondering. I'm not doubting the practice, I think, at all. However, lately I'm more keen on knowing or getting how can I say, be a bit more less ignorance about the bodily system and how it works, and so to get more information from my body, especially the nervous system. And I mean, I'm doing yoga and other things with the body and massage and things. But I'm wondering in what sense that could be also a bit hindering my belief in the practice, or could that be doubt for a bit? And when is it doubt? When does it become doubt? When you are searching also other ways to get to know yourself a bit better and to understand the world or how you respond to the world.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you understand my question, Paul?
Yeah. What do you understand to be how to put this? What do you understand to be freedom from suffering, or the way to realize freedom from suffering?
To be less ignorant.
Meaning?
To
Less. So what's the opposite of being?
Yes, to understand your way of suffering and the craving and everything that.
Okay, so we have to look at the suffering. So we have to look at the suffering.
Yes.
Okay, so the Buddha's teaching is saying that suffering is resolved through the development of wisdom. We gain wisdom into the true nature of reality by mindfully noting what's actually taking place, developing our map of conscious experience, developing a deep comprehension of how every component part of our experience arises and passes away due to conditions. So the Buddha's teaching is complete. There's nothing missing. And that's not to say at all that there are other modes of knowing and understanding the world. Yoga is one. I don't know, psychoanalysis is another. All various therapies, and you know, so there are ways of knowing oneself, but do those ways actually liberate from suffering? Do they develop the wisdom that is on offer through following the Noble Eightfold Path? And so what you have to decide is whether or not you are actually doing those other things for the same purpose. And if you are, then that's suggestive that you're doubtful of the Buddha's teaching. But if it is that you understand that the Noble Eightfold Path is complete, It's not lacking anything. And it will, if it is persevered with, and one continues to the very end, it does result in the realization of nibbana and freedom from suffering. Therefore, you can still enjoy other modes of other interests, but you're not confusing them with the path to realize freedom from suffering. So, for instance, you might really enjoy, I don't know, fiction or watching documentaries, or you might like, there might be lots of other ways of knowing the world that you might enjoy, but you don't mix it up with. Do you see what I'm getting at there?
Yeah, I do see. So as long as it will add to the understanding, or doesn't need per se, but
well, no, it's a different.
no,
it's
I
a different
understand what you're
pursuit.
saying. Don't confuse it. Don't confuse.
Yeah, don't confuse it. It's a different pursuit. It's a different interest.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the confusion comes, is because.
Well, the difficulty is it's not a totally different interest, maybe, for me.
Oh yeah, but okay, so take exercise as an example. Let's not use yoga, because let's say you hadn't said yoga, you said I go running every morning, right? So when somebody goes out running every morning, obviously they're doing it to get fit, but they could use it as a mindfulness practice. And they could say, right, okay, well, I'm going to be mindful of discomfort. I'm going to be mindful of shape and color. I'm going to be mindful of sounds. I'm going to be mindful of tactile sensations. Yeah. And I'm going to observe the transient nature of those things while I'm running. Right. So that's just mindfulness of body, isn't it?
Yeah, I get. Yeah.
So what is your overarching aim?
Yeah.
What is your overarching purpose in the things that you do? When you do the washing up, same thing.
Yeah.
Is that a spiritual practice for you?
Oh yeah. Oh dear. Yes. We lose you again, Paul.
Me. So no, you're all freezing. I have unstable internet connection. Bear with me. Let's see what I can do. Okay. Sorry about that. So yeah, so the point I'm trying to make there is that because people do mix up different traditions, and it's so unnecessary. And it's like, you don't have to do them all. It's like, if it is the case that the top of the mountain is the same for everyone, then choose your path, the path that feels right, that touches your heart, that makes sense to you, however you define it, and just stick to it. It's like we don't have to practice equality in this. Yes, we know that there are other effective paths, but we don't have to do them all. So I think it is an aspect of doubt.
No, yeah, it can be. Yeah, I can see the possibility or the chance that I'm mistaking something. So what I'm doing I don't think it's per se doubt, but it can be. Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
And
Like
for
when
me,
when I was in training, I was able to read around different teachers and different authors and different points of view, but I always knew I was practicing Vipassana meditation, and I was following the Noble Eightfold Path. So I could take in a breadth of knowledge and so forth, but it was always insight meditation in order to be liberated from the passionate craving for things to be different than they are.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. That's very helpful. So for me, it's very helpful to don't mistake doing something to achieve something, something specific, and then it serves a craving to want things to be different, then following the path and understanding the unknowing. And yes, no, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
very helpful.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Anything else I wanted to, there was something else, but it's gone. If I remember it, I'll come back to you, Mandy. But yeah, great. Okay. Aileen, have I pronounced that name? Well,
It's Ajalen.
Aileen.
Yeah.
Apologies.
No, that's okay. I'm used to it.
Yeah, lovely name.
Thank you.
So how can I help you?
So I want to know, I'm very, very new to the Buddhism teachings. I've been interested in it for a while, and it was only till recently I've actually tried to read up on it and look into it.
Okay.
And I've read a few books, I've watched a few videos, stuff like that. But then there's obviously that doubt where if you're not very knowledgeable on something, it's kind of thinking, well, how do I even keep going? Even actually, have I even properly started? And I just want to know, do you recommend even just like a path? Like I've been trying to do a bit of mindfulness and stuff like that, but I was feeling a little bit lost on what to do.
I think, well, I can only really relate it to my personal experience. In the early days, I read around a lot. I tried various practices. I didn't feel compelled to follow one way at all. And I think you are very welcome to try as many different things as you care to. And what I found was, because what was overriding it for me was a wish to be free of suffering, and having realized that it was my fault, essentially. it wasn't my upbringing, it wasn't the government, it wasn't anything like that. If suffering was happening, I was doing it to myself somehow. And so there was this deep spiritual inquiry going on, which involved looking at lots of different things, Hinduism, Tibetan Buddhism, Zen. And gradually what happened was there was this whittling down, essentially saying, no, not that, not that, not that. And eventually I got to the point where I knew I was interested in or very drawn to Vipassana meditation, insight wisdom, which is Theravadan Buddhism. And then from that, I realized that there was a teacher in Bradford and Avon, which was quite close to where I was living at the time. And I went and met my teacher, Alan. And so it had its own momentum. And in the early days, I didn't feel particularly like I wanted to commit myself to any one particular practice. It kind of organically came as a result of the investigation. So I'd encourage experimentation and investigation with different traditions.
Okay.
And when you find something that does resonate with you, and it's a very natural resonance, it's not forced at all, that kind of helps point you in the right direction and navigate you. And I personally found that doors just started to open and opportunities started to emerge. And it eventually got to the point where I I found my teacher. And the important thing then was and this goes back to what I was saying with Mandy, at that point, you then let go of the alternatives and you commit, but you're committing because you want to commit. You're not trying to conform with something. It's rather, it's like, oh, this is the vehicle through which I get to explore the true nature of reality and come to a direct understanding of what it really is.
Okay, so you basically you read around and you explore different sides, because I think that's the thing where I was then struggling to think, okay, so is with Buddhism, is there a specific or is it branch? So I suppose you look around, see what works best for you, and then take bits and pieces of what works for you, rather than thinking, oh, I don't agree with that. Oh, but that's part of the practice, so go along with it.
I would make a distinction that it's not about taking bits and pieces of this bit of Hinduism and a bit of Zen Buddhism and a bit of, whatever else it might be. Rather, it is going and exploring the various traditions. And when you find the thing that really resonates, it's then embracing the entirety of that teaching.
I see.
Yeah. Because what happens is, one of the ways that doubt manifests is that people essentially want their cake and eat it. That they don't want to commit to one. They want to take what they like from all these various traditions, and that means that they never actually look at the difficult stuff.
Okay.
So everything is fine. There's like this honeymoon period, and I've seen it so many times, that people go through, and meditation is fine and they're doing really well. And then the really difficult questions start to emerge about stuff that they're seeing. And it's at that point that the doubt really starts to hit hard. And so it's having established something that really resonates with you, finding a school of Buddhism or a school of Hinduism or whatever it might be, but it really resonates with you. You feel it in your heart. You feel it's the right way to go. And that's what enables you to stick with it through those difficult, challenging times.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Great question. Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah. I hope that's helpful. Giuseppe.
Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Just a quick question really on the seated practice, or practice in general, actually. Noting. Again, this could be linked to doubt, but something's, for me, has come up is I've started to mainly perceive things as change. It's just using the words, oh, that's changed, seems a little bit more natural than saying, oh, that has arisen and is now passed away, or that's transient. Not that I'm necessarily focusing on one or the other, but what I guess my question is it okay to, now there you go, doubt. I don't know, but okay, yeah. So is it okay to sort of note, oh, that's change, without having to then go back over it and go, right, I'm now going to really make sure that I know that that has been born and is died and is transient?
Again, I think this falls into the category of thinking that you have to conform. Like, oh, they don't talk about change, they talk about transience. I'm supposed to see transience, not change. And I think this is one of the points I'm trying to get across, which it is your exploration of experience. It's you coming to a transcendent understanding of the true nature of reality. Okay. We want to keep the language we use within the context of the Buddha's teaching, of course. But there's nuance here. Like, for instance, when we use the word change, it implies that there is something consistent there, but it's just changed. It's the same thing, but it's just changed. I always liken it to the old washing powder adverts where they say it's new and improved. If it's new, it's not improved, because improvement suggests that it's the same thing, but better. Whereas new implies that it's a completely new thing. It's not the same as the old thing. The old thing has gone. Now we have the new thing. So they're just trying to catch both types of personality, one of which is attracted to newness and one which is attracted to improvement.
Yeah.
And when it comes to meditation, it may very well be that it appears as change to you currently.
Yeah.
But that actually implies transience.
Yeah.
Because if something has changed, it's not actually the same thing. But what happens is you note it as it appears to you, as it spontaneously, as you perceive it, you spontaneously note it as that. If it's a bird singing, you note bird singing. If the bird singing is changing, you note change. Because that's what you perceive. That's how it appeared to you. Now, further down the line, because you're confident in what you're doing, you're solid, there's solidity in what you're doing. You're not worrying about whether you're noting it properly or not, which is classic doubt.
Yes.
Am I doing this right? You're not doing that. You're just solid in the practice of going, this is a bird song. I'm going to listen to this and let this information about what it is come to me. And so at the moment it's noted as change. But further down the line, as your noting becomes, or perhaps your concentration and your mindfulness become more solid and stronger,
yes,
it starts to become obvious that in fact there are a whole series of notes which do indeed arise and pass away.
Yeah.
And it's never the same bird song. Yeah?
Yeah.
And so we trap ourselves because we believe we have to conform with what we read. We have to conform with what the teacher says. We're not actually exploring, we're trying to conform.
Understood.
And that's wrong practice. It's got to be natural. It's got to be a spontaneous interest in and fascination with unfolding experience from a position of uncertainty, from a place go, I don't know what it is. Let's explore. Let's find out.
Yeah, that really helps. It really helps because at the moment anyway, it just seems like there's blocks of time almost. I don't know, but there's a space, a time that something is there, and then I'll go, oh, well, that's changed, so that's no longer there, so I can't be that. So, whatever that hindrance was that was running, and or whatever, but being able to explore, and
it's perfectly okay if it's that blocky like that. If it's like a block of experience, you're summing up as the hindrance of this or the hindrance of that or that experience with it. That's fine.
Yeah,
it's not there now, is it?
No, thank goodness.
And like I say, gradually, as mindfulness becomes stronger, as concentration and focus becomes stronger, it becomes possible to leave the mind just observing a particular experience, and the ability to see the minute arising and passing away of phenomena becomes possible. So I think it's relaxing. It's fine. This is why it's so important to talk to the guide.
Yes,
because pretty much most of the time it's just going, everything's fine. In our minds we go, no, this can't be right, that can't be right, I've got to go. And you go and talk to the teacher, and the teacher's main duty is to go, no, everything's fine, you're doing well, it's ongoing. Because we get trapped into this, we read and we listen and we think that's what I'm supposed to be seeing.
Yes, exactly. That is exactly what has been happening, and trying to shape one's experience to fit the words and how I've just sort of...
And it's coming from doubt.
Yeah.
And so once the doubt is properly acknowledged, you don't act in that way.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a truly free inquiry.
Thank you.
Okay. It's such a tangle, isn't it? It's such a simple thing we're being asked to do, or I'm asking you to do. It's such a simple thing we're being asked to do, and yet it involves such complexity, and unfortunately, we have to disentangle the tangle as we go along, and gradually we straighten it all out, and it becomes an incredibly simple but incredibly powerful practice. But we have to be willing to go through these difficult, gnarly, problematic attitudes that we impose on what is otherwise a very simple practice. And you can't just wish away the complexity. You have to be willing to move through it. But if you persist, if you endure, then eventually you come out the other side and you have a very simple, very powerful and profound practice, which really does change the way you see life. And it does become more subtle. Just going back to that point, it does become, so it is blocky. Okay. You know that, the bird was singing or whatever. That's absolutely fine. That's, or the hindrance was running. That's absolutely fine. And then gradually, over time, it becomes, you dissect it into ever more subtle bits of information.
Yeah.
Birgit, hello.
Hello, Paul.
You right?
Yes, I'd like to ask a question about Buddha-rupas. I obviously know they are all around at the center. My understanding of having them around is to remind us to I don't know, I suppose the Buddha and what he's been teaching, and to, I don't know, I suppose help us focus and concentrate. That's my understanding anyhow. But the other thing that comes in for me, like the first Buddha-rupa I got as a present. It was a resin Buddha-rupa, and within seconds it fell on the floor and the head broke off. Now that happened quite a few years ago. I didn't know what to do with the Buddha-rupa. I didn't particularly like it to start with, and but at the same time, I couldn't just throw it away. So it's been ending up in a bag, just broken as it was, and I don't know. It might be a silly question, but I'm just a bit sort of mixed up, probably is the right word. Maybe doubt, whatever.
Okay. It's like, what value do we place on material things?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, a Buddha-rupa, a statue of a Buddha, is symbolic. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of things that immediately arise in my mind. One is that the primary reason for having Buddha-rupas at the center is because we're a Buddhist center. Mm. You kind of have to let people know that you're a Buddhist center, and one of the easiest ways of doing that is having Buddha-rupas dotted around the place. And often they were gifted. In the early days, they were gifted to the center, and so we just, they were put about. I like having a Buddha-rupa in my home. As with all these things, they tend, in terms of being a reminder to practice, they tend to sort of go into the background, don't they, and just become part of the room and the furnishings of the room. And we see the Buddha-rupa, but it doesn't always necessarily mean that we're going to remember to practice. That has to come from within us, undoubtedly. But I would also say that it does create an atmosphere. There was a German football team called Bayern Munich. This was back in the 2000s, I believe. that they experimented with putting Buddha statues around the training facilities of the football team, in the belief that it was a very positive icon and it would have a beneficial effect on the team. But in the end, they removed them all because they kept losing, because it had the wrong effect. It made them less ambitious. It made them less aggressive. It made them less wanting to, they kind of, you score, they score, yeah, that's cool. Doesn't matter who scores. It's all just a game, isn't it? Just an empty game. I don't think they went that far quite, but it wasn't appropriate. It wasn't appropriate for what their purpose was. Whereas a meditation center, or for a Buddhist practitioner to have a Buddha-rupa, seems very appropriate. It does create a kind of atmosphere. There's something else that arises in my mind. I don't know if this is a story from Zen or wherever it came from, but there was a very harsh winter. And so at the Zen, the Zendo, where the Zen temple is called, it was so cold that the only wood that they had left was their Buddha-rupa. So they stuck that on the fire to keep warm. You know, we don't want to take materiality, the material, too seriously. We don't want to, this whole problem of becoming so respectful, of taking it to such a, putting it on such a high pedestal that it means that we can't attain. Yeah, we have to keep it in balance. We retain our respect for the Buddha-rupa. But if it breaks, it breaks. I mean, I think there's a kind of message in, the Buddha-rupa breaking there, Birgit. Something about transience. I was just trying to get the thoughts through. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's retaining a respectful attitude to these things, but it doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't have to mean, that we elevate it. Because if we elevate the Buddha's teaching beyond what we're capable of achieving, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And my discovery is that the Noble Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths, can be realized in this lifetime. You have to have a respectful attitude. You can't be conceited. Hubris doesn't work. You need to be humble. You need to endure. You need to be patient. You need to develop all these wonderful qualities of faith and so forth. But it is doable. And so we can't elevate the Buddha beyond, beyond our ability to attain. So I think, do you get what I'm saying? So it's a middle way.
And if the Buddha-rupa is broken, then like other broken things, you might dispose of it.
Well, yeah, or you just leave it on the mantelpiece with his head. I don't know. You do whatever you believe is most fitting. I don't think you're doing anything unwholesome.
It just feels really strange.
Okay, well, we'll put it somewhere. You can put it somewhere that's private, that people who are visiting won't see or whatever. Or you can just keep it there with the head next to it as a fitting testimony to the transience of all conditioned things.
Thank you.
If anyone else has got any suggestions with that, I'm quite happy for you to speak up. But do you see the overarching thing that I'm trying to get across, which is like appropriateness, and it's inappropriate to elevate the Buddha and the Buddha's teaching beyond to be something that we're incapable of reaching, because it was precisely the opposite reason that the Buddha taught. He taught because he knew that other people could and would realize the truth for themselves. Yeah? And we become too reverential. That's the word. That's the word that covers it. We become too reverential if we're not careful. But we need to retain our respect, because if we become self-concerned about it all, then it's never going to work. So it's finding the middle way. Any other thoughts? Thanks for that, Birgit. That was a really interesting question. Okay. Well, we had a couple of breaks during that recording. I hope the recording came out okay. So doubt was the theme. Last time it was mindfulness, wasn't it? And tonight it's doubt. Interesting. So thanks for all your contributions. And we'll reconvene in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Yes, thank you.